Welcome to the Long Point Bird Observatory here on Long Point. I've just spent my entire morning catching birds, putting bands on them, and releasing them again. It's really been an unbelievable morning here at Long Point. So here at Long Point Bird Observatory, we collect data on just about every single species of bird you can think of. We've seen over 400 different species here at Long Point. The main reason that we collect data, that we pay attention to all these birds every single day, is that we want to know something about their populations. Are their populations going up? That is to say, are the birds doing well? Are their populations going down? Are those birds doing poorly for some reason? Or are their populations staying more or less the same from year to year? Are those birds doing just fine? The way we do that, well, we do two different things. We spend a lot of time outdoors just simply looking for birds, and we count every single individual bird that we see. And some days here at Long Point, that might mean 30,000 red-head ducks, 25, maybe 40,000 red-winged blackbirds, hundreds of warblers, dozens of shorebirds. We could count 4, 6, maybe 8 million individual birds in a single year. Now on top of that, we actually catch some of the birds too. We have traps and nets set up in the forest here and different places on Long Point. The birds find their way into those traps. We collect them, bring them back to the lab, mark them with individual bands that we put on their leg, just like a bracelet or a ring. Write down some information about those birds, how old they are, what species they are they a guy or a girl, and we release them again back into the wild. So by counting the free-flying birds and capturing and banding 20,000 or 30,000 of those birds every year, we get a good sense of how bird populations are doing all over Canada, but particularly birds that nest in the boreal forest, where there's nobody there to count them, or very few people doing any kind of bird watching whatsoever. So we let the birds come to us on their southward migration in the fall and their northward migration in the spring, and that's how we get our data. All that data is used to inform conservation decisions by policymakers in government or in other organizations that are interested in helping bird populations thrive. So our data, which spans back 60 years, is the longest running data set of its kind in North America. I love getting up every day and working on birds, seeing every single sunrise and pretty much every single sunset as well. Working on birds, it's the first interest I ever had in nature, and I've continued it for the last 15 years. And getting involved with birds, particularly when I was younger, as a teenager, has led me to explore a whole bunch of different facets of natural history. Now I'm interested in everything. Trees, fish, even mollusks, little clams and mussels that grow in the sand out here in the bottom of Lake Erie. Birds has been sort of a gateway for me to, for one thing, it's given me a job all my life, but it's also led me to explore nature in all these fantastic other ways. People always ask me the question, how did I get interested in birds to begin with? And it's hard to remember, it was so long ago. But one thing I can recall is my grandfather had one of those old Peterson field guides, the ones that still had some black and white plates in them, really old. And I remember just, flipping through it one day and recognizing some of the birds that were coming to his bird feeders and realizing that, hey, I can do this, I can look at a bird in nature, find it in the book, and know what it is. And for some reason, I became obsessed with doing that. And now I've traveled all over the world looking at birds. I've seen a quarter of the world's bird species. One of the best ways for you to get involved in birding is to join some citizen science programs, and Birds Canada has a whole bunch of them. You can watch your bird feeders and report on the interesting birds you see there as part of Project Feeder Watch. Every Christmas, myself and just about every other bird watcher in Canada goes out and counts birds for a few days every winter. And the data we gather there is hugely important. We don't know too much about what birds do in the winter and what their populations are like here in Canada. So that sort of information is really, really valuable. There's all kinds of other things you can do as well. You can come visit conservation areas, places like Long Point Bird Observatory. You can even help us out here. There are all kinds of opportunities for you to get involved in your community or with various conservation groups, even further afield in other parts of Canada or even other parts of the world eventually, to work on bird conservation. And not only birds, but when we conserve birds themselves, we're conserving habitats, and we're actually making, space for other species, mammals, fish, reptiles, and amphibians as well. When we say, all right, it's time to work on this specific species of bird, there's a whole bunch of other effects that follow. It's good for nature in general. So in addition to having professional scientists, biologists, ornithologists here, every year we also invite a group of teenage Canadians to come to Long Point and learn all of the really advanced birding and banding and ornithological skills that I use as a scientist. You can come here as a 13 to 17-year-old and experience Long Point just the way I do every single day. You get up early with me, go into the field, get out in a boat on the lake, get to our remote banding sites, and spend 7, 8, 9 days doing real ornithology with real scientists. And if that's something that interests you, a career as a biologist, or even just, taking a really serious amateur interest in it, that's something you might want to look into. And we have all kinds of information like that on our website. We not only have that program for 17 to 17-year-olds, but the following year we invite some of those same participants to come back as interns. It's like a more advanced position, so you get to have even more hands-on experience dealing with the biologists, and getting involved in some of the other aspects of running a biology station. It's not just all bird watching and bird banding. There's a lot of other stuff going on behind the scenes that we have to take care of as well. And so as an intern or a young ornithologist, which is what our two programs are called, you can come here and experience Long Point just the way I do.